Welcome everyone to the Strengthening Partnership for Students with Disabilities webinar series. Our session topic is Understanding the State Performance Plan Indicators, What, Why, and How to Be Involved. This presentation is brought to you by the California Department of Education, Special Education Division, and the Seeds of Partnership Project. Thank you for taking the time out of your schedules to join us. Next slide. As we get started, I want to point out that we have a few language options for this session. American Sign Language will be spotlighted. Captions and translated captions can be accessed by finding the Show Captions icon at the bottom of the Zoom menu and selecting the arrow. This opens up the menu where you select the translation button. If it's turned blue, then it's active. Choose My Caption Language, where you can select the language you'd like the captions to display. For example, the slide shows the speaking language as English and what it looks like if I'm choosing the display to be in Spanish captions. Next slide. My name's Robin Ryan, and I'm the coordinator of the Seeds of Partnership project. And with me supporting in this session are colleagues from Seeds of Partnership and the California Department of Education, Special Education Division team. We're excited to bring forward this webinar series. Our goal is to create space where families of children and young adults with disabilities, educators, and other professionals come together to learn and connect with effective strategies, resources, and insights to support students with disabilities. We hope through sharing knowledge and experiences in presentations and spotlights, these sessions will inspire meaningful conversations, foster collaboration, and highlight the voices of parents, students, and educators, and others who support to make a difference in students' lives. Our topics are generated from direct input from both families and educators in California, and we look forward to adding additional areas highlighted by those of you joining us today. By completing our feedback form, we will learn much more from you out there tuning in. The link will be displayed on the screen toward the end of our session. We hope you take the time to share your thoughts with us. The session recording will be available on our Seeds of Partnership website in the e-learning gallery, where you can also find previous recordings and registration for upcoming webinars. So for those of you not familiar with Seeds of Partnership, we're a longtime partner and technical assistance project through Sacramento County Office of Education, funded by the California Department of Education, Special Education Division. We partner on a variety of initiatives with the Department of Education, provide training, develop resources, and support around all things family engagement, assistance with compliance and improvement monitoring, and coordinated support for the 33 Family Empowerment Centers in California. To learn more, please visit our website at www.seedsofpartnership.org. Next slide. Our session today, our focus is the following. We will provide an overview of the State Performance Plan, or SPP, and the Annual Performance Report, or APR, and their role in the federal special education accountability under the Individuals with Disability Education Act, or IDEA. A brief explanation of the State Performance Plan and the Annual Performance Report indicators, including what is measured, how they're measured, and why those measurements matter for students, families, and educators. We will also share practical resources that summarize the indicators and broaden educator and family awareness of the state's efforts, as well as where to find even more in-depth information on the indicators. We'll also learn about opportunities for input on the goals and measurement of those indicators. The spotlight for our session, we have California Department of Education Associate Director Shiloh Duncan Besserell, System Improvement Leads Program Specialists Crystal Keith and Improvement Facilitator Jasmine Vance, and Support for Families of Children with Disabilities Director of Education Cheryl Thies joining with us today. A resource highlight we will learn about this session is the State Performance Plan Indicator Summary Series. I'd like to now welcome our California Department of Education Special Education Division Associate Director Shiloh Duncan Besseril, for some opening remarks and sharing the connection between the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act and the State Performance Indicators, along with a snapshot of California student enrollment. Over to you, Shiloh.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Shiloh Duncan Besseril, and I am the Associate Director for the Office of Data Monitoring and Local Educational Agency Support for the Department of Education Special Education Division. Welcome back to the Strengthening Partnerships for Students with Disabilities webinar series. It's been 3 months since our last session, but Dr. Heenan and I are profoundly thankful that you have continued to partner with us in this unique learning opportunity. Next slide, please. As our first webinar of the new year and the 10th overall in the series, I would like to revisit the vision statement, which details the overall goal we aspire to at the Special Education Division at the California Department of Education. One day, every student in California will flourish in an inclusive and equitable learning environment driven by innovative and personalized support and services that deliver exceptional educational outcome essential to a purposeful and fulfilling adulthood. And the how we will achieve this is detailed through our mission statement, which explains that we will work in a trusted collaboration with educational partners to create inclusive learning environments, provide quality programs and resources, and support data-driven continuous improvement, so that all students with disabilities are equipped with knowledge, skills, and opportunities to achieve exceptional educational outcomes. Something that stands out to me when I read these statements is the relationship between educational data and the goals that students experiencing a purposeful and fulfilling adulthood. This stands out to me because the story that each data set reveals influences each subsequent action that our division undertakes. Because it is through our data-driven continuous improvement approach that not only allows us to achieve successful outcomes, but also empowers us to apply these strategies to the more complex ones that we've identified. This leads us to closer achieving our ultimate goal, that every student's educational journey will culminate with the necessary tools to live a purposeful and fulfilling adulthood. Which brings me back to today's webinar, where we will dive into one of the many avenues that the Special Education Division is undertaking to achieve this goal. Today, we will focus on understanding the State Performance Plan indicators, what, why, and how to be involved. We will explain what indicators are, explain why they matter, and finally, how they support improving outcomes for students with disabilities. So on behalf of the California Department of Education Special Education Division, I want to send an enormous thank you to everyone here today for continuing to partner and learn with us as we continue to build stronger, more informed, and more collaborative partnerships between families, educators, and support systems in special education throughout California. Additionally, I'd like to thank our partners from the System Improvement Leads who will explore this vital topic today. And lastly, my sincerest thanks to Robin Ryan with the Seeds of Partnership for her tremendous work on this wonderful webinar series. Again, thank you for your time and support and your partnership. Now let's get started. Next slide. This year is especially significant as we mark the 50th anniversary of the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, a milestone that reflects how far we have come in recognizing the rights, access, and potential of students with disabilities. In 1975, President Gerald Ford signed into law the Education for All Handicapped Children Act, which guaranteed all children with disabilities the right to a free and appropriate public education. Before the EHA's enactment, the fate of many individuals with disabilities was likely very dim. Many individuals lived in state institutions for persons with intellectual disabilities or mental illness. People with these disabilities were in restrictive settings and were merely accommodated rather than accepted and educated. Next slide. But IDA is our promise to students with disabilities. IDA requires that each state develop a state performance plan and report an annual performance report that evaluates the state's efforts to implement the requirements and purposes of the law and describes how the state will improve its implementation. Next slide. Our data tells a story, one of commitment, growth, and continued work ahead. The annual performance report includes 18 indicators, 11 performance indicators that measure student outcomes, as well as 6 indicators that measure compliance with the requirements of IDEA. The annual performance report is California's report card on how we serve students with disabilities. Each indicator is a page that reflects progress, equity, and inclusion. IDEA opened the door in 1975. This year's annual performance report marks our state's latest chapter in that shared legacy. So, what do the numbers reveal about California students? Next slide. The students with disabilities population in California has continued to steadily grow over the last decade. The only time you will see dips in enrollment were the first 2 years of our pandemic. Meanwhile, the general population enrollment in our schools has decreased since 2016. This continues to show the need for resources, state investments, a statewide system of support for LEAs, and professional development for educators, paraprofessionals, and administrators. This also shows the need to think outside the box to solve some of the complex issues that face our population. Next slide. Here's the visual representation of the data in the previous slide. This illustrates just how steadily the student with disability enrollment has grown and continues to grow. There was a 25,000 student increase of identification for students with disabilities this year, and each year we have consistently seen the same increase. Next slide. With a state as large as California, it can be easy to forget that each number is a student, especially at CDE when the work and decisions have to be high and statewide. But I believe our vision and mission bring us back to the root of the work, that each student is a story. And when we look at our state, you will see that oftentimes this job, this goal, this mission that we have is grand in scale. The number of students with disabilities that we serve in California is greater than 5 other states' total population. So as we continue to tell this story, today I hope you will learn and see and understand California's report card about where we are and where we need to go. I will now turn it back to Robin to introduce today's presenters.
Thank you, Shiloh, for those welcoming remarks and setting the stage for the session today, especially the perspective on the current total number of students with disabilities in California. Those of you joining this session today are parents, teachers, administrators, service providers, parent center staff, and others. Let's outline a little more, why does learning about and understanding the state performance plan indicators matter for families and educational staff? For parents, learning about the indicators provides information about the goals, movement toward achieving those goals, and areas that are lagging at a district and state level. Parents can use them as a reference in key areas as part of IEP development. Parents being more informed about the indicators leads to holding schools accountable for the progress monitoring and goal achievement. Accessing the indicators as a resource can serve to support active partnership by reviewing and using data to contribute to decisions about programs and supports. For educators, it's crucial to have knowledge about the state performance plan and all the indicators as a part of the system of contributing to those metrics and the accountability for your own district, which is part of the larger statewide data. The indicators assist in identifying areas needing improvement and where you can evaluate further for effectiveness in many areas. The indicators can guide professional development centered around data-driven decision-making for students and staff. I invite you to consider these, as well as jot down a few notes of other reasons that the indicators are important for both parents and educators in our state. What resonates with you in your role or involvement with students or your student as you listen to this remainder of the session? Next slide. Joining us today are Jasmine Vance, Improvement Facilitator, and Crystal Keith, Program Specialist from the System Improvement Leads team. Jasmine and Crystal support the development of the SPPI related resources and other improvement efforts. And today they will be walking us through the overview of the State Performance Plan Indicators and the State Performance Plan Indicator Summary Series handouts. Over to you, Jasmine.
Thanks, Robin. We are so excited to be here with you all today. And before we get into the wonderful world of the State Performance Plan, I'd like to take a little bit of time to tell you about the SIL team and the purpose of our work. So we're part of the System Improvement Leads, and we're a joint project with the Riverside County SELPA, the El Dorado County SELPA, and the El Dorado County Office of Education. And our work is made possible by the California Department of Education, as well as the California Collaborative for Educational Excellence. Our goal as we go through our presentation today is not to overwhelm you, but really to help you have access to information and resources that are going to help you understand the story behind the systems and the data that supports special education across the state of California. Next slide, please. The purpose of our work at its core is really about collaboration. We work within the California System of Support to help the system build stronger ways of improving over time. So when we're talking about continuous improvement, we're really working to make meaning that's thoughtful, have intentional changes that are based on what we're learning. When we're thinking about and talking about data best practices, we mean using data as a tool for understanding, not just as a tool for blame. And when we talk about high leverage change ideas, we're talking about focusing our energy on changes that actually make a difference for students in California. All of these foundational processes really help organizations to align their work so that improvement is meaningful, sustainable, and focused on the outcomes for students with disabilities. Next slide, please. First, we do want to build a shared understanding of where the State Performance Plan indicators come from and how they connect to the annual performance reports. These are terms that are often referenced without context, and really our goal today is to help them make them feel a little bit more accessible. Secondly, we want to preview a resource that can help make the State Performance Plan indicator data easier to understand and to navigate. So you may not leave today as an expert, and that's okay, but our goal really is to provide clarity and share resources to support that effort. Next slide. So we describe this work as a journey because the expectations that are placed on local educational agencies, they don't start locally. They really begin at the federal level. They travel through to the state level and then eventually land with the LEAs. Just as a note, when we say LEA, that's referring to a public educational organization, such as a school district, a county office of education, or even a charter school that's responsible for operating schools, overseeing the educational programs, and funding. So ultimately, understanding this pathway, it really helps to explain why certain indicators exist and why the data matters. Next slide, please. So we're going to start at the federal level, and at the federal level, we start with the U.S. Department of Education. Within the department, the Office of Special Education Programs, also known as OSEP, they are responsible for overseeing how states implement the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, or IDEA. Next slide. IDEA requires that each state develops and submits a state performance plan every 6 years. Next slide. The State Performance Plan, or SPP as we call it, describes how the states will measure and monitor its implementation of IDEA, so that federal law. This plan serves really as a roadmap rather than just a checklist of things that need to be done. Next slide. The goal of the State Performance Plan is to ensure students with disabilities are supported in inclusive and equitable educational environments. The indicators within the State Performance Plan, they really help us to understand how well systems are supporting that goal overall. It's important to remember that the indicators are tools for learning and improvement, not just a tool for compliance. Next slide, please. To support this work, the State Performance Plan includes 18 indicators. These indicators are determined by OSEP, and they're based on requirements that are outlined within IDEA. Next slide. This image gives us a look at the areas that are measured for each indicator. I do want to note that indicators 15, 16, 17, and 18 only apply to the state level APR, whereas 1 through 14 are relevant for both local and state level APRs. Each indicator gives us a different lens into how systems are functioning. Next slide, please. So some of the indicators will focus on compliance, and those targets for compliance indicators are set at either 0 or 100%. These indicators will ask whether specific legal requirements of IDEA have been met, such as timelines or even procedural safeguards. Compliance indicators do help to ensure that all students, all of their rights are being protected. Next slide, please. Other indicators, they focus on performance, and these look at the outcomes for students and families, such as participation, achievement, or even engagement. And as a result, targets for performance indicators vary and are determined by each state. So performance indicators really help us to understand the lived experiences, not just whether the requirements were met or not. Next slide, please. So now that we've chatted about the federal level, we're going to move from OSEP over to the state of California Special Education Division. Next slide, please. So California is required to set rigorous and measurable annual targets for each of the 18 indicators that we just took a look at. Next slide. The California Department of Education then reports progress on these targets back to OSEP through the state level annual performance report, which is also known as that APR. Performance is then based on whether the state as a whole has either met the designated targets outlined in the SPP. OSEP then uses the information that's included in the state performance plan as well as the annual performance report to then determine if the state has met requirements or requires assistance or may even need further intervention. Next slide, please. This slide shows where California's state performance plans, as well as the state level APR, the data is publicly available. So you can check out this link and explore this site to learn more about California level APR and state performance plan. Next slide, please. So from OSEP to the state, we go to step 3 on our journey, which is looking at the data at the local level with LEAs. Next slide. So, in a similar process, the California Department of Education's Special Education Division uses indicators 1 through 14 to measure outcomes for each LEA. And this information is then shared annually with LEAs through the local level APR or annual performance report. And this is where the data becomes most actionable at the local level. Next slide. This slide just really serves as a reminder that there is that state level annual performance report that reflects the statewide outcomes. And then there's the local level annual performance report. And it reflects those outcomes that individual LEAs, such as school district, charters, or even the county offices are going to receive. Understanding this difference really helps to ensure that the data is interpreted correctly. Next slide, please. So just to recap our journey, IDEA requires a state performance plan every 6 years. The SPP includes 18 indicators overall, and California sets annual targets and reports progress through the state level annual performance report. Indicators 1 through 14 are also used to share the performance of LEAs on the local level APRs. This structure really supports transparency, accountability, and most of all, continuous improvement. Now that we've built some shared understanding of what the state performance plan is and how those indicators and reports fit together, the next step is making meaning of this information. This is where the State Performance Plan Summary Series comes into play. This series is designed to help translate complex indicator data into a format that's a little bit easier to understand and navigate. So at this point, I'm going to turn it over to my colleague, Crystal Keith, who will walk us through the State Performance Plan Summary Series and how they can be used to support learning and improvement. Crystal, I'll hand it over to you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Jasmine. And if we could just advance to the next slide. As Jasmine mentioned, my name is Crystal Keith, and I'm a program specialist with SIL. I'm very excited to spend some time highlighting a resource that is now in its second year of publication, the State Performance Plan Summary Series. The SPPI Summary Series can be a useful tool for learning how the requirements of IDEA are monitored, learning more about statewide outcomes for students with disabilities in order to drive improvement efforts, supporting professional or community conversations by creating shared understanding, and an opportunity to share perspectives and feedback based on lived experience. So with all that said, let's get started. Next slide, please. The summary series sits within a larger ecosystem of SPPI-related resources and tools, which are all designed to meet the unique needs of a wide range of users. These include the SPPI Guide, which provides more technical information on each of the 14 local level indicators, the aligned SPPI web modules, which provide an easy-to-access video overview of the information provided in the guide, and the Improvement Data Center, or IDC, which is a set of data-driven tools and dashboards provided to help educational agencies analyze and use their special education data for continuous improvement. As we mentioned, today we will focus on one of the newer resources to this group, the Summary Series. Next slide, please. The Summary Series was developed with two primary goals in mind that drove decisions about which information would be included and how. The first goal was to broaden knowledge and awareness of the SPP indicators to help Californians learn about the state's efforts to improve outcomes for students with disabilities. To accomplish this, the development team sought to demystify this sometimes complicated topic of the SPP, its indicators, and its data in order to hone in on how understanding this data can positively impact students through more targeted and data-driven supports. The second goal was to offer an opportunity for engagement and feedback on the indicators from educational partners, parents, and community members. Really, the goal is that the information provided in these handouts will not just flow outward, but will also encourage discussion and input. Next slide, please. So this resource was not created in isolation. It was developed collaboratively in partnership with CDE, Seeds of Partnership, and SIL, with feedback from family centers. That early feedback and discussion was essential in shaping what information was shared and how, ensuring a cohesive flow within the series while also allowing space for the nuances of indicators. Ultimately, as mentioned previously, the development really remained focused on making indicator information accessible and easy to understand for a variety of users. It should also be noted that this is not a finished product, but one that continues to evolve based both on annual data, but also user feedback. Next slide, please. So what is the SPPI Summary Series? They are a collection of one-page overview handouts of the 14 local level SPP indicators, with the exception of a couple of the more robust indicators, which did require 2 pages. As hard as we tried, we could not fit it all on 1 page. But with that being said, the one-page format is intentional. These handouts are designed to be quick to read, easy to share, and accessible for a wide range of readers, many of which may not work with SPP data regularly. Because they're designed as a general overview, they don't include every technical detail, but as mentioned earlier, the SPPI guide, which complements these handouts, provides more in-depth information on data collection methodology, calculations, etc. Instead, these really focus more heavily on data snapshots, statewide progress, student impact, and opportunities for input. An updated version of this series will be released annually to accompany the release of the local level APRs. And the most recent version will always be available on the Seeds of Partnership website. However, if you're viewing these in isolation, the date can also be found on the upper right-hand corner of the handout. Next slide, please. For those new to the SPP or this series, the recently added introductory document is a really helpful starting point for exploring the intention of the series, gaining a general understanding of the SPP as a whole and why it's important, learning more about the call to action to help shape California's special education goals and improvement efforts by sharing your feedback, and where to access the series. The introductory document can also be used as a really helpful framing tool when you're sharing this resource with others by helping to create a shared understanding before you dive into the individual indicator handouts. Next slide, please. So each indicator handout follows the same consistent structure. So once you've used one, the other should be fairly easy to navigate. First, each handout provides a brief summary of the indicator and explains why it matters, which grounds the data in student outcomes rather than compliance alone. The handouts also include state-level performance data, offering a snapshot of how California is doing and showing progress over time in relation to those state targets. A unique feature of these handouts is also the inclusion of tips to support students. These sections are meant to help bridge the gap between data and practice by highlighting actions that can positively impact outcomes related to each indicator. And I'll talk more about that section a little bit later. Each handout also links to related resources for those who may want to learn more, and a link to a survey that allows you to share questions, suggestions, or ideas for improvement. Altogether, these handouts are designed to be practical, usable tools supporting understanding, reflection, and action at the local level. Next slide, please. So we will now take some time to tour the sections of the handouts to help familiarize you with what you can expect to find in this resource. At the top of each handout, as shown here, the indicator is clearly identified by number, title, and a summary, including what it measures and which students are included. This framing provides a consistent way for users to quickly understand the purpose of each indicator. The date range, as I mentioned, is also noted at the top right corner, so you can quickly see the time period being referenced. Next slide, please. This section of each indicator handout is intentionally focused on why the indicator matters and not just what's being measured. The goal here is to anchor the indicator in student experiences and outcomes. So rather than leading with compliance or technical definitions, this section highlights the broader importance of the indicator and how it connects to things like access, inclusion, or opportunity. So for example, like indicators like least restrictive environment, as shown here, this section draws on research and evidence to explain why inclusive settings matter for academic, social, and emotional outcomes. This framing really helps ensure that conversations about data stay centered on impact and not just performance. But it also supports shared understanding across roles, so the reader can connect the indicator with their student or their students. Next slide, please. This section provides a snapshot of student outcome data. The visuals are designed to make the data easier to interpret at a glance and to surface key trends that support reflection and conversation around questions like, what did you notice, or what questions does this raise? In some cases, the data shown reflects a prior school year based on federal reporting timelines. This is the case for indicators 1, 2, and 4, which use prior year data, often referred to as lag data. If this is the case, it's stated in both the blue summary box at the top of the page and then also indicated in the date range shown in this section. Some indicators, like the one shown here, indicator 2, measure a single outcome, like dropout rate, while others capture multiple related outcomes. Those are referred to as sub-indicators, and their data insight section will look a little bit different. So let's take a look. Next slide, please. So sub-indicators break a larger indicator into smaller pieces so we can better understand where progress is happening and where more attention may be needed. So instead of getting everything as just one number. It's kind of like looking at an overall grade versus seeing scores by subject. You get more insight when you can see the parts and not just the whole. So for example, indicator 5 includes 3 sub-indicators, A, B, and C, which measure different levels of inclusion in the least restrictive environment. In the case of indicators with multiple parts, the what does it measure section is added to clarify how those sub-indicators are defined, but then also to provide data for each. So ultimately, together with the data snapshot, this section supports a clear understanding of what exactly is being measured. Next slide. Following the data snapshot section is a section that shows the statewide indicator targets and how California is progressing toward those targets or goals over a 3-year period. Rather than focusing on a single year, this supports more meaningful reflection about progress, momentum, and also areas where additional attention may be needed. This 3-year period will adjust with each annual release of the series as new data becomes available. And the title of this chart is intentionally written in indicator-specific language, so it'll vary across handouts. So for example, indicator 2, as shown on this slide, the chart is titled Progress Toward Decreasing Dropout Rates, so it clearly reflects the outcome that the indicator is designed to influence. Additionally, the visuals in this section are designed to show both the state's target and actual statewide performance side by side, making it easier to understand whether progress is moving in the intended direction. Next slide, please. For handouts with sub-indicators, a separate chart is provided for each one. Each chart follows the same structures, so you can compare progress across sub-indicators in that same side-by-side layout. As with all indicator charts, the direction of the trend may move upward or downward depending on the outcome being measured and the goal for that indicator. So you can see that difference here in indicator 5A, which reflects an upward target trend toward inclusion in the regular setting, versus 5B and C, which show a downward trend toward the goal of fewer students outside of the regular setting. These charts help frame where progress is happening. However, in the next section, we'll focus on how that progress can be supported in practice for your student or students. Next slide, please. The Tips for Supporting Students section shares simple, practical ideas that families and educators can use to support students in areas connected to that indicator. The ideas included here were co-developed with input from both educators and family centers, so they're designed to be accessible and actionable for a wide range of readers. These tips are not meant to be exhaustive. Instead, they represent a starting set of ideas that can continue to be adapted and built upon over time through collaboration and your feedback. Next slide. The Additional Resources section connects readers to aligned resources for those who want to learn more. The links and QR codes point to relevant and short indicator modules, which provide more detailed information about how the indicator is defined and how it's measured. These resources are optional, but they can help bridge the handout content to more in-depth learning for those who want more context beyond just the one-page summary. Next slide. Speaking of additional resources, I just wanted to take a quick moment to revisit the resources that I mentioned earlier, the SPPI guide, modules, and the IDC. If you'd like to explore any of these further, the links will be available to you with this webinar. But I also wanted to mention before I move on that at the bottom of each indicator handout is a QR code with a link to the SPPI dashboard that's found as part of the IDC, and that's where you can view indicator data for your specific LEA. Next slide. Lastly, but very importantly, each indicator handout includes an invitation via survey link for parents, educators, and community members to share your perspectives and help inform our ongoing improvement. The feedback link appears on every handout by design because, as I mentioned earlier, a core goal of the SPPI Summary Series is to support two-way communication, not just sharing data and information, but inviting reflection and input from you, the users. Next slide. To start exploring the handouts, please scan the QR code shown here or visit the link. You'll be taken to the Seeds of Partnerships SPP APR overview and feedback page where you'll find all of the SPPI Summary Series handouts organized in a really easy to access chart format. From there, you can quickly access the most recent individual indicator handouts, related resource links, and the feedback links as well. Previous year's versions are also archived at the bottom of the page. Next slide. So I just want to close by looping back to a point that was shared earlier about the overall goal of the state performance plan. At its core, the SPP is about ensuring that students with disabilities are empowered to reach their full potential by fostering inclusive and equitable educational environments for all. The SPPI Summary Series is one way that we're trying to support that goal by making data more accessible, more connected to outcomes, and more responsive to the voices of educational partners, families, and community members. Thank you for spending some time with us to learn about the SPP and this resource, and for all you do to support kids in homes, schools, and communities across the state. We hope you'll find this resource useful and look forward to hearing your feedback as the work continues. Thank you, and back to you, Robin.
Thank you. Thank you, Jasmine and Crystal, for the overview and information on accessing these important resources and the input opportunity. Next slide. So we're happy to invite Cheryl Thies to join us into the conversation to share her experience and a few thoughts on the State Performance Plan indicator summary sheets. Cheryl is the Director of Education at Support for Families of Children with Disabilities in San Francisco. She's worked in support of children with disabilities and their families for over 2 decades and sees local and state partnerships as key to parent empowerment. So a quick shout out to the Support for Families of Children with Disabilities. They provide multi-layered support for families of children with disabilities and complex medical needs, birth to 26 years of age in San Francisco County. They provide workshops, information, and resources, parent mentors, support groups, navigation of services, family and community events, and more. Services are offered in English, Cantonese, and Spanish, as well as other languages. They serve as an early start family resource center, San Francisco Centralized Access Point, and Family Resource Center, Parent Training Information Center, Community Parent Resource Center, and Family Empowerment Center, and also Community Navigator program for San Francisco and a few additional counties in their region. Their website is www.supportforfamilies.org. So thank you again for joining us, Cheryl, to talk about these indicator sheets.
It's nice to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you. So as a director of education at your parent center, how have you used the indicator summary sheets and resources related to the state performance plan with colleagues at your center, and what have you found impactful about it?
Thank you, Robin, and thank you for this presentation. And I want to start by saying I stumbled on the fact that there even were federal indicators many years ago when I was trying to figure out how to make sure we could do a better job supporting parents around that transition to adulthood. And somehow in my, research and Googling around, I found indicator 13 in the federal list and realized, wow, this is really great, except we need to make this parent friendly. We need to make this more accessible. So I'm so excited that California is doing this because it's so valuable. It helps in terms of the parent center itself. First of all, it's a great training tool. It's a great onboarding tool. It's a great way to work with teams to look at what are the issues here in San Francisco. For example, we have 14,000 plus students in special ed, almost 50,000 students overall, over 100 languages spoken in San Francisco. So we're like a little mini universe of all the parent centers. But often we're trying to figure out, like, we can work in silos and lose track of, are we making a difference? What do we really need to focus on? So, for example, if we look at San Francisco and I see that our graduation rates are not where we want them to be, or I see transition plans aren't really compliant, this is a great tool to go over with my staff about, this is the information we want to be sharing so that when we're helping parents do things like review an IEP or a transition plan, here's a little checklist you can use. Here's what you can be looking for. So I think that's really, really valuable. And to identify gaps in services and supports that are happening. And so we can work collaboratively with the district to try to solve those with data in our hands, not just, we feel that, or we, but bring our parent stories to life with data.
Thank you for sharing that examples. So what ways have you used or plan to use these resources when you're working with families?
So first of all, for parents themselves, I really appreciate the multimodal way that these were presented. So there's visual information, there's a QR code, there's text, and just like our kids, all of our parent centers we're supporting families who learn in various different ways and understand things in different ways. So I also think that bite-sized approach is really helpful, so that you're not, I think a lot of times we'll do conferences or training events where we send people home and we think it's great that we're sending them home with 100 pieces of information, except people may not ever look at it again. So here we have this targeted way to present that information. Another way that I looked at this after we talked about it in this webinar today, Robin, was looking at, for example, what's our percentage of parent involvement? Who goes to IEP meetings? How many people are coming to our trainings, our CAC meetings, and so on? And so having information, about the family engagement piece, for example, is really helpful in helping us think, wow, we need to do a better job of, reaching, who are we reaching, but also who are we not reaching? And so that kind of data is really helpful for us in doing that. And then finally, just for our families in thinking, I'm getting everything translated here in Cantonese, in Spanish. Sometimes we're doing Vietnamese, sometimes we have other languages, and making sure that we can use this as a training tool, because I love that it's pretty straightforward, plain language. And that just makes translation so much easier, because we know that our people who are translating are not just, this is why AI isn't just so easy. We need to take into account not just a word for word translation, but the cultural needs of our communities and how they understand things. And so when it's in plain language in English, it's so much easier to translate it across cultures and languages as well.
Thank you for bringing that up. And I like the part where you're sharing who are we reaching and who are we not reaching. So those really key points. Just to ask you, in closing, like, do you have any other additional thoughts that might be helpful related to this topic for either parents or educators or the parent center staff that's tuning in to learn more about these resources?
Thanks. That's a great question, Robin. What I would say to my colleagues across the state, and thank you all for the work you're doing, and thank you CDE and Seeds of Partnership too, is that we always need to be thinking not just about what information we want to share, but how we share it. Sharing it in, again, bite-sized pieces that are manageable. Sharing it in multiple kinds of ways. So visual information, recorded information, YouTube videos, and all of that. I think the biggest takeaway for me is that one of our advocacy tips that we often use, I say it all the time when I'm doing training, is to a family. If you were in an IEP meeting and you were trying to make the case about what your child needed and you had tape over your mouth or you couldn't say a word, what could you show? Right? We want our families to learn, and it's not easy to rely on data. And so when we do share resources like this, we're helping them learn how to use data in the interest of getting their kids' needs met. And I just think that's an incredibly valuable thing that we can do.
Thank you, and thanks for addressing our fellow family center partners that are tuning in of how they might consider using this in their programs. Thank you so much, Cheryl, for your experience and highlighting the helpful ideas, and we appreciate your time.
No problem. Thanks again.
Yeah. So in closing, we can go to the next slide. Thank you. In closing, we do have a feedback survey, and we want to hear from you. What was your biggest takeaway from this session here? Is there anything further that you'd be interested in learning about this topic? We would also be interested in you sharing your family and school partnership stories. What's working well? What isn't? What are session topics that we can lift up? What else would be helpful to you? We have a QR code here, and there's a link, and we do encourage you to share that with us. Next slide. We invite you to register for an upcoming webinar, and as a reminder, these are the fourth Thursday of the month from 11 to 12 p.m. And we have our QR code there and also a link. On behalf of the California Department of Education and Seeds of Partnership and the Sacramento County Office of Education, I want to acknowledge and thank Shiloh Duncan Besseril, Crystal Keith, Jasmine Vance, Cheryl Thies for presenting in this session. And through learning together, we strengthen partnerships. We thank all of you for joining us and learning together with us in this webinar. Thank you.